It's another webinar in my IELTS Success system where I show you how to improve your IELTS skills and your IELTS performance. My name's Bernie Wall. I'm an IELTS trainer specializing in bands 7 and 8 and working with students who have taken the exam before, sometimes many times, and not quite got the score that they want. So I'm really excited to be here and to share some tips, or a tip about listening today. Today's webinar is the first in my new series, 5 Top IELTS Tips. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be concentrating on one tip in the listening exam. So I'm just going to share some slides with you, and then we can get started. So, how to improve your IELTS listening score. We'll be looking at one thing that you can do to improve the score that you get in the listening. And it's one thing that I find increasingly that students are doing a lot or not doing a lot. And as a consequence, they're losing marks in listening. And the irony of this is that this particular area of the listening test has nothing to do with listening ability. So this is a mistake or a series of mistakes that's being made at the end of the test and is causing a lot of students to lose marks unnecessarily. So before we move on to that that particular tip, I want to look at the kind of skills that you need and the things that you need to do in order to be successful in your listening exam. So the first is to improve your listening skills. Generally, that doesn't just mean practicing lots of IELTS. So improve your listening skills in a general way by listening to lots of different types of material. So you can find lots of things on the internet and they will all help you. Secondly, having done that and having found that you can absorb and understand most of what you listen to, you need then to be able to discriminate in your listening. You need to be able to listen for detail because, as you know, the questions in the IELTS listening are not comprehension. They are asking you for very small points of detail. So you need to listen for dates and numbers and names, etc. So improving your ability to listen for detail is vital for IELTS listening. And again, you can find lots of things online to help you to do this. And don't just concentrate on IELTS, but find other general English exercises because there are lots of them that do this as well as IELTS. The third thing you need to do is to improve the exercise types which lose marks for you. And when you do any practice listening, you'll know what they are. For some people, they might be multiple choice. For others, they might be maps. For others, they might be gap-filling exercises or short answers. So identify the ones where you personally find you lose marks, and then you can concentrate on those and try and improve your scores there. And finally, the thing that you need to get good at is improving the use of your preparation time. So you know before each group of questions you have some time to look at the questions on the sheet. And it's important that you utilize that time really well so that you can be absolutely prepared to anticipate the answers that are going to come. So even if you do all of those things, I find that there's still one area that a lot of students overlook, and this area can cause them to lose a lot of marks completely unnecessarily, because if you've done all of these things, then you are in a good position to get a high score. But there is one other thing that will cause you to lose marks even if your listening is good. sorry, I want to just say something about content before I introduce that to you. So try and find new things to listen to all the time. If you keep doing the same tests and the same tasks, it's not a problem, but you will remember some answers, so it's not testing you quite as well. And don't just think about IELTS. As I said before, you can find lots of things online, and any listening material you do will be of help. So look widely and try and find new things to listen to all the time. But going back to my previous point about one area that students often lose marks with, it's something that you may not have even thought about. It's something that you may not even consider is a part of the listening test. But if you don't pay attention and be vigilant in this part of the test, then you can lose a lot of marks. And that can spoil your score, especially if you're looking for a high score like 7 and 8. And as with many of my students, if you're looking for band 7 in everything or band 8 in everything, one or two missing questions in the listening can really spoil your score and can stop you from getting what you need. And that one thing, which I will reveal now, finally, is recording your answers. Now, you may think that this is not part of the listening, and you may think that this is just what you do before you hand in your paper. But I can tell you that a lot of students lose marks in this area, partly because they don't consider it as being so important, and partly because they don't practice it. And it's very important to practice your answers. And I'm going to show you some of these silly mistakes. I call them silly mistakes because they are not part of the testing of your listening ability, but they can be quite expensive in terms of losing you marks. And the only thing here that people tend, in my experience, to worry about is the spelling. But these are things over and above the spelling that people often make mistakes with because they don't pay enough attention. And I'm going to show you some examples, all of which have come from my own students and my work with those students. So here are some examples that came from one student. And I think you'll see immediately why I call these silly mistakes. Okay, the 22nd of October, the student that made this mistake, it was a completely silly mistake. Ordinarily, they would not ever have made this error, but it was just when writing down the answer, it came up, and it cost a mark. The second one is the wrong past participle. It should be fed. It's a simple and a silly mistake, but it cost a mark. The third one, the instructions said one word and the student wrote 2 words. It cost them a mark. And in the fourth one, again, a one-word answer. This cost a mark. And the final one is a spelling error. So totally in that test, 5 marks were lost, and this student needed a very high score of 7+. So losing 5 marks is jeopardizing that score. And these are all things that can be avoided if you pay more attention when you record your answers on the answer sheet. And the way that you will make sure that you avoid them is by practicing this process of recording your answers when you've finished your practice. Okay, so it's not only this kind of error. Here are some more examples. Okay, this was the question. And it was a gap fill exercise, and the student, this is a different student, had to fill in 3 words this time. Okay. Hotel is already in the question. If you repeat it, then the sentence is not grammatically correct, and that will lose you a point. Okay, again, another gap fill. This was the answer from this particular student. Types of is exactly the same as forms of. Forms of was in the question, types of was in the listening. But by repeating this, you lose a mark. Okay, another one. Again, a gap fill. Gap fills can cause a lot of problems in this area. The answer is 30%. But note, in the question, we already have percent, so we don't need to repeat it. And this could cost you another mark. And finally, the size of a small postcards was what was heard. But if you look at the question, they are looking for a singular because we have a. So when you're underlining words, be careful of these small words. So potentially there, we've lost another 4 marks just because they were recorded wrongly. Now, I'm not saying that you should listen in so much detail when you're going through the listening. You can write down on your question sheet what you hear. This is something you can do when you transfer your answers. You can check that little bit further that you haven't made an error of recording. Okay. In some cases, you can use the question to help you get your answer absolutely correct. And here are some examples. Okay, this was a table, and the question was to provide the date after Sunday. So the first day was given Friday, July the 8th, to Sunday blank. And the student wrote 17th. In the question, it says July. So why not use July in the answer as well? This is a pattern in the question, so follow the pattern. Now, possibly this could still have been correct, but it may have been incorrect because July might have been important. So don't risk losing a mark by not following the pattern that you can already see in the question. Here's another one. There was in this question a list of languages and the number of speakers. The second one was the blank, and you had to fill in the language that was missing in that question. And it happened to be French. But look at the original. It has a capital letter, and that's the convention for English spelling, to put capital letters with languages. The student wrote it with a small letter, with a lowercase. And potentially that could be marked incorrect because it's not following the spelling conventions of English. So no need to lose this mark because it showed you in the table how the other languages were recorded with capital letters. Okay, here's another one. A reply could take a. What was heard was 2 weeks. Now this is quite a difficult one, and you need to find some way from what you hear of recording that in the singular. A fortnight is the word that springs to mind. So think about the grammar of your answer. It must be grammatically correct, otherwise your answer will not be correct. So take note of things like articles. If there isn't an article, then in all possibility, it will be a plural, but it might also be an uncountable noun. So you do need to consider the grammar. And the final one, here we can see that we've got develop as the first word, and it is a verb. And the student has written a noun. And this does not fit with the grammar of the sentence. So that noun which was heard needs to be replaced by the verb form. So can develop and replace. This kind of thing normally falls in the last part of the listening in part 4. But you have to be vigilant and you have to look. And if I gave you this exercise, I'm pretty sure you would know what the correct answers were. But in the not panic, but in what's going on in the test and the timing and everything else, sometimes these things get overlooked. And the way that you can avoid that is by practicing. So make recording your answers part of your listening practice. So let's return to our list of IELTS listening success techniques that we need to do. So we know we need to improve general listening skills. We know we need to improve the ability to listen for even minute detail. We know that we need to improve the exercise types that make us as an individual lose marks, and we need to get better at those. And we know that we need to improve the use of preparation time before we listen to the next few questions. And now we know that we need to add an extra technique, which is record your answers correctly. Take note of the grammar of your answers, especially where you have a gap fill or a short word answer. And use the question, especially when you have tables or lists or those kinds of layouts in the question. Use them to help you make sure you get the right answer recorded. So is it a capital letter? Does it have both the date and the month? Am I using 2 words where they've asked me for 1 word? Or am I not using 3 words where 3 words according to the question type would be better? So there's a top tip to help you improve your score even more. Make sure that when you've done all the work of the listening, that you record your answers correctly. Now today I've only had time to skim the surface of all the skills and techniques that I have to share with you. But you can get many more of these in my program, IELTS Step by Step. This is a program that I have written which covers every part of the test and every single exercise in every part of the test. And it shows you how to develop the techniques you need, how to approach each type of question, and then it gives you practical exercises to practice so that you can become better at every single type of exercise. And that's important in the IELTS because in the exam you do not know which exercises you're going to get. And if you're lucky and you get the exercises that you are good at, then you're likely to get a good score. But if you're unlucky and you get exercises that you have a problem with or you're not quite sure about, then that could make your score go below your target band. So it's important to be good at every single type of exercise. And in my program, IELTS Step by Step, I will show you every technique for every type of exercise in every part of the IELTS exam. Including the speaking and including also lots and lots of information on how to prepare, how to organize a revision timetable and a preparation timetable, how to get extra material to help you. So there's a lot of information in that program. And you can find the program here at this web address. So I urge you, if you want more of this kind of exercise, to go and look at IELTS Step by Step, and please join us. We have a Skype group and a Facebook group, both of which are private, so that you can practice speaking and writing, and all the techniques are in that program. So that's all that I have for you today. I hope that you found that useful, and I really hope that you will stop losing marks through not recording your answers correctly and accurately on the answer sheet. So goodbye, and I'll be here again next week with another of my top tips for IELTS. Thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you in the next webinar.